Živijo, tukaj je Anže, poslušate podcast Aparatus, kjer legitimni člani družbe povejo, kaj počnejo v življenju. Tole pa je 94. epizoda Aparatusa, v kateri sem govoril z Sturmom, ki je polovica podcasta Defocused, ki ga dela z Joeom Stilom, ki ste ga na Aparatusu že lahko slišali. Tako sem zdaj še drugo polovico tega super podcasta povabil, sem malo pogovarjal o tem, kar on dejansko dela, ker njegov day job je pa režiser oziroma scenarist za videote, pa me je pol presenetil, na kjermu videote je delal in so ga malce cerala, tako da je full fine. Sicer je pa kar nekaj let delal pri Intelu. Naprej začnemo pa še enkrat ful hvala vsem, ki ste že podprli podcast Aparatus in unim, ki to še boste naredili. Če hočete to narediti, pejte na aparatus.si/podpri. Res ful hvala. Aparatus je tudi v iTunesih, tako da če daste tam kakšno oceno, je fajn, ker tako še lahko kdo najde tale podcast. Sicer pa, Dan, I guess we'll start.
Sure.
Since you're recording your end and I'm recording my end and stuff, and I have my notes here.
Oh God.
Physical notes, man.
You didn't tell me anything, so I don't know what to expect other than I listened to a bunch of the old episodes again.
Well, that's pretty much all you need to do. I think that's, and then just show up, and then I'll ask stuff. So so my first question, which is always the same, and I also say that every time. So, who are? Don't laugh. Who are you, and what do you do?
My name is Dan Sturm. I am a video director and visual effects artist.
I just realized your last name is basically Storm, right?
Yes, it is the German word for storm.
That's awesome. I just realized that. Sorry, because I have Skype open and your name is like, it's in the middle of my monitor now. So, okay. That was an aside. What does a video director mean?
I guess I would say I'm a filmmaker. I don't really make films per se, but director is sort of the umbrella term I use in that I direct on set, I shoot video, I edit audio, I do motion graphics, animation, all that fun stuff. So it's just kind of every bit of it. But currently, most of the stuff I do is web-based commercial marketing type stuff. I work freelance with sandwich video relatively frequently. That's kind of what I've been doing for the past 2 years. And I occasionally do visual effects for movies here and there. Only about 2 movies in this last year.
Oh, nice. I did not know that you work for Sandwich Video. I had no idea.
Well, I don't work necessarily for them. I've just done a lot of freelance work with them in the past 2 years since I left my real job. I don't have a real job anymore. I am a freelance video director.
What was your real job?
Well, my real job was essentially the same thing. I was a creative director, I guess was the technical term, for Intel. I worked in their internal media department, which was called Intel Studios. Not that anyone would ever hear that name, but for 7 years after college, I got a job at Intel, and I wrote, directed, edited, and did visual effects there as well. So it's all sort of the same thing.
Yeah, well, doing what? It's Intel. I don't that sounded awful. That question sounded awful. But
No. It's understandable. Yeah, I generally have to explain it to people. Well, the internal media department covers sort of everything that the company would want to create except the TV commercials. So we would make anything from just interviews with executives that were either meant for internal or external viewing, training videos. We would do, I ended up doing a lot of, like the executives when they have their keynote presentations at like CES or internal conferences, they have usually about a minute or two fancy video that introduces them or their presentation. And I made a lot of that stuff. We shot a lot of video inside the clean rooms where they make the microprocessors, and a lot of that stuff ended up on news outlets, that kind of stuff. So pretty much anything and everything that they could think to shoot was kind of my job.
That sounds kind of awesome to me, to be honest. Honestly, I don't know. You worked for Intel. I don't know. I think Intel with all of their stuff, it's still one of those companies that I feel good about. I don't know why, but it's still one of those. It's one of those blue chips from the, internet era, I guess. Or the computing era, I should say, yeah.
I still quite like the company. I still know a lot of people there, and I talk to them. They're a gigantic corporation like, any other, in which they have cubicles and hierarchies and all that fun stuff that makes it really annoying on a daily basis. But, it was a pretty cool gig. I mean, I got the job Well, straight out of college isn't actually the right term. I got the job technically before I finished college, which was awkward because I was still going to school for like 6 months when I first started working there. But it was a place where I learned a lot, I guess. And I started out just as an editor, just editing video for the organization, and eventually started doing more effects and then writing, directing, and kind of developing the full skill set of things that I do today.
But where were you based when you were doing that? Like, where does the Intel have like a headquarters in America, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, the headquarters is in Santa Clara in California, in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley area.
Oh, yeah.
But I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, where they have most of the manufacturing plants where they make the actual chips are here, the big ones. We weren't in those buildings. We were in this goofy little terrible building that they bought that's just a couple miles away from it. They have a lot of offices here. And then, so the first 6 years I was here, and then I needed to change of scenery. So my last year at Intel, I moved to San Jose, Santa Clara area, and worked at the headquarters, which was nice.
Oh, nice. I had no idea. And you work with, I should say, since you're a freelancer, with Sandwich Video. Because I hate Adam Lissager, basically. Because he edited You Look Nice Today.
Yes.
And I mentioned this when I talked to Marlon, and I hate him for that, because that show is perfect, basically.
It is a favorite of mine as well, yeah. It's a fantastic show. I still listen to it. People think I'm crazy, but I still like listening to old episodes.
I am the same way. When I run out of stuff and I just need something, when I'm like, if I'm going somewhere by bus and stuff, I'll just, listen to a random episode and just get angry all over again. I hate it. It's ridiculous. Anyway, sorry. I get worked up. Because I don't know, this whole podcasting thing, it's sort of starting to show signs of like, at least not being a baby anymore, but maybe like a toddler or something, like as a medium, right? And he just sort of just jumped over that and just became a full-on adult with You Look Nice Today. And I hate the guy. So that was my rant, sorry. How's working for Sandwich? Like, we should explain, because I don't know, like, I guess, well, maybe like I'm going to call them the foreign audience might know about Sandwich Video, but like people over here in Slovenia might not know of them. So, like, how would you, like, explain Sandwich Video? That's a stupid question, but I asked it, so go.
Well, they are a video company based in Los Angeles who makes short. Initially, I think Adam referred to them as demo videos for technology, apps, hardware, all kinds of cool new stuff that like indie developers. Mostly really interesting products that you've never heard of before. And Adam has a very interesting signature style that a lot of the indie developers like, and a lot of everyone likes, actually. I was a fan of Adam's work long before I ever got a chance to work with him. He's been the spokesperson for a lot of the products in the tech nerd sphere that we live in that we all have come to know and love.
Yeah. He did the 1Password video, which is the one I sent to people when I tried to explain to them, just use 1Password. I just got...
That was mine, actually. The first project that Adam is involved in every step of the way for every project. His voice is in every video they make, but the 1Password video was really the first time I worked with them in the full capacity, wherein I wrote and directed that one.
Honestly?
And did the visual effects for it. Yes, I did all of that stuff.
That's awesome, man. Because I sent that video around, like, to anybody where they're like, it's just passwords, security. And I'm like, just use 1Password. And then every time I try to explain, I'm just going to send them the video. And hopefully they speak English, which, over here is not that rare. But, that's awesome, man. I had no idea. Honestly.
Yeah, thank you. Most of the work I do with them is post-production stuff. So I do editing and visual effects and animation and color correction and stuff. But that one was a long time in development. When I first started working with them, I guess Agile Bits had contacted him and wanted to make a video for it. And, for a number of reasons, trying to line it up with their launch and a bunch of other projects that were happening at the same time. It took a while, but we went back and forth writing that one a lot. And I ended up getting to take the reins on that one. That was a fun project.
That's so awesome. You see, and like Joe worked on, the Smurfs, which is, fine, I guess. I had to say that. Anyway, like the 3 people are going to get that joke. But so, okay, we should like rewind a little bit. Like, why video stuff? Like, did you go to school for it or?
Well, video was kind of always a hobby for me, I guess.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Like, what, because when you're 15, what does shooting video as a hobby look like? Because I had a Sony camera and that was not a hobby, man. Like, that's...
Right. Well, okay, so I should say, when I say hobby, that's the nice way of saying I used video as an excuse to get out of one of my classes in like 7th grade. So I don't know if this is the same over there, but like in I guess it's middle school, 7th grade, like 3rd period or whatever it is, they would do the announcements over the intercom. Someone would come on the radio over the whole school and say, this practice is at this time at this field or whatever, and here's what's going on at the school. And at our school, it was kind of a new school because I live in the middle of the desert, and there were no schools, so they built them like as they needed them. But they did video announcements, and a friend of mine was helping make the video announcements, and I thought it was interesting because he got to leave class for like a half hour every single day to go make this goofy live video broadcast. It's basically like a news show where you read 5 minutes of announcements from the administration, and you put some silly graphics up on the screen, and then the whole school is supposed to engage with it more since it's video or something.
Like the boom goes the dynamite guy, basically. Like
I suppose
that's the only reference I could think of.
I mean, it basically what it turned into was me and like 5 of my friends in this little room in the back of the library, making a little live news broadcast every single day where we would just kind of mess around and we would play whatever music we were into at the time we would make introductory credits and end credits for a news show every day because why not? We were bored and we got to play with this little equipment. But it was just a fun thing to do to get us out of class for a little while. And then, that sort of like went by the wayside. And then in high school, there was a really cool video production teacher there, and I took some of his classes, and they also had the video announcements thing going on. So we would, shoot video of the sports teams, football, lacrosse, whatever. And then we would do the video announcements, and we would make, part of the video class, we would make like packages, like news packages. We would make radio ads for fun, just random videos and this and that. But I was always a math nerd kid, so... Eventually, I as I was instructed to do, I went off to go be a computer engineer in college, and I got the first year of that was interesting. I really enjoy technology, but I was not cut out to be a computer engineer. So I just after my first year, I totally bailed on that, and it's like, well, what am I going to do now? It's like, well, I've kind of been making videos my whole life, either with my friends or as part of a school thing. So let's go to film school. And I went to, at the time, it was the only film school in Arizona, which is where I was still going to college. It was up in Scottsdale. And it was only a 2-year program. I kind of did 2 degrees at the same time. So I got a 2-year degree in film production and film editing. And as I mentioned, like one of the teachers in the TV class, it was like a live broadcast class, which I should stipulate, I hate doing live TV type stuff, like webcasts, all that fun stuff. It drives me insane. I hate it.
Why?
There's something about the live element of television that it's just like constant panic and everything always breaks all the time. So it's really just like doing your best to make sure that the video doesn't go down. Like all of the live streams we always watch of any keynote anywhere, like what the Apple Watch keynote, is that the one where there were like 3 languages going on at the same time and it kept going to color bars?
Yeah, the Chinese translator.
Something always goes wrong like that in a live broadcast, and you're just scrambling and sprinting and getting yelled at the whole time, and it's just miserable. And when it goes right, you're basically just sitting there and, cut from camera 1 to camera 2, cut from camera 2 to camera 3, and it's like an hour and a half of that. And I don't find that particularly stimulating. So, the live TV stuff is not super interesting. But anyway, in that class, the teacher brought in folks from different companies to sort of like give lessons or whatever, like, hey, learn from some industry people. And one of them happened to be from Intel and mentioned that there was a job opening for an editor. And at the time, again, since I was the computer nerd, I've always been like super into like building computers and like futzing with them, and not really all that great with them, but I like to tinker a lot. So I kind of got this weird reputation as the guy who knew all of the answers when you were asked any question about like the editing software. And I ruined the grade curve in my editing class for everyone else. So that reputation at least got me the interview at Intel, and then it turns out they hired me. So that's kind of I stumbled and fell and used video as an excuse to like be lazy and not go to class, and then it turned into a job. So that's kind of the roundabout story there.
Yeah, that happens to everybody, you know. That's the, you know, it's just either incredibly lucky or, you know, that reputation was really something for them to, you know, decide on a job at the end there. But yeah.
It's like, what else are you going to do? I mean, I always like to mess around with like Photoshop, and then, you know, I edit video, and then eventually you're like, well, what else can this program do? And you poke around and you're like, okay, I can make two versions of me, and I can have a conversation with myself that I'm editing together here. And, you know, that tricks some people when you're in high school and they go, how did you do that? I don't understand. It's like, well, it's one button, but I spent enough time poking around in the application and I figured out how to do it. And, you know, it just spirals from there. So, yeah.
Okay, but the whole storytelling aspect of it, like, where does that come in? Because if you started doing, you know, the school announcements, that's not actually, you know, like story driven, I guess. Like where does that come from then? Because I think you need that, right? If you do video of any kind, even the 1Password stuff, you know, that's, you know, that has an arc, I guess, sort of.
Yeah, I don't see this is the difficult part for me even still these days. I don't find myself to be that great of a storyteller, which is probably why I haven't branched out into things, you know, like feature films or, you know, all the dramatic type work that I love watching so much, but it's just I'm not super great at writing it. The tech stuff, but both with when I was at Intel and sort of the sandwich stuff, I've always been, I'm sure you and many of your listeners are, the guy who translates tech for normal people. Like, you know, somebody asks you, explain this thing to me, and trying to figure out how to relay inscrutable technical detail in a human manner is something that I've been doing for a really long time. And, you know, at Intel, a lot of the folks there either didn't care or they had been there long enough to be jaded about the fact it's like, okay, every year there's new chips, they're a smaller process, they have more features, they're faster, whatever, they're cheaper. And they didn't pay attention to that stuff. And for a while I was still super into that stuff because I basically joined the company right when they changed the logo and they launched the Core line of processors, and they dropped Pentium and all that stuff went away. And I found all that stuff fascinating for a great many years. And anytime there would be the PR folks want a video about the new process, I would be, okay, this is the chip that added this to it, and it's this process here, and this super difficult thing there, and then we would go find out all the fun technical detail, and then turning that into something that people could potentially understand was an interesting challenge. And it's the same sort of thing with I should say I really don't do a lot of the writing and directing for the sandwich stuff. The 1Password one was really the last thing I did in that capacity. But making sure that the technical details of a product or service are properly explained in a digestible manner is, I think, a fun challenge. And it's something that I feel like I kind of understand how to do. But That's sort of it's not so much, I don't look at it as storytelling per se as kind of showing off what a thing is and why it's cool.
Yeah, but I think that's an actual skill. Because I feel the same way when I write about tech, right? Like just explaining, I call them civilians, which is basically everybody else. Like, you know, trying to explain anything to just normal people. I think when tech's involved, I think that's an actual, like, that's a proper skill. Again, yeah, I wouldn't call it storytelling because that's just douchey because everybody just calls everything storytelling these days. I hate that. Right? Like if you work with video or like you write stuff, you can actually call yourself a storyteller, like no matter what you do.
Yeah.
I think because there is an element of that. But if you're a guy that makes chairs, you're not a storyteller. But I'll bet you there's like 17 videos on Vimeo of a guy saying he's a storyteller because he makes something out of wood, right? And I find that word, like the storyteller, it has lost so much of its, I don't know, like meaning, I guess, with the...
Yeah, I mean, you can retcon a story about just about anything, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be a good story. It's just a story, apparently. So,
yeah. Apparently, being the operative word.
Just as there are a lot of movies that aren't super great, there are a lot of stories that are not super engaging or entertaining. So, yeah, whatever.
Okay, but we do have to talk about movies because, like, we're gonna talk about Defocused at the end. That's sort of how I pictured it. But like the best episodes of that show, right, is when you actually like the movie and you're the normal person, and then there's Joe, right, who's just there to, There's this. I just heard that a couple of weeks ago. He just poo-poos everything. That's what people say over there in America sometimes, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, because that sounds weird to me, but I'm rolling with it. So
that is an acceptable idiom. Yes.
Yes, thank you. No, but like you have this. I don't know. I really like when you like a movie. You're like you actually like it comes across as just a guy liking a movie, and I think that's really like hard to capture even in a podcast or a TV show or a book or a article, whatever. Like that genuine joy of someone liking something. I think that's really hard to capture. That's my theory. But like, this is going to be the weirdest, douchiest question today, probably. But like, why do you love certain types of movies? And that's a broad question, but I had to ask it. Seriously, my notes. See that? It's written down.
No, it's not that bad of a question at all, because I think about this all the time. The Golden Globes were on last night, and it's yet another instance where I watch it and I go, really? That's the one you guys all liked versus the one that I actually liked? But it's more me coming to the realization that the movies I like are different than most people, and in ways somewhat psychotic. Like, I'm a big fan of David Fincher, and he's he's well known for making kind of out there, creepy, weird, psychotic films. But I think why do I like the movies that I like? Characters really resonate with me for a lot of things. There's comedy that's always. I love a good comedy. I watched 22 Jump Street the other day for the second time, and I like those movies. They're silly and fun, but those aren't the movies that I like hold up as like a great piece of cinema. Like, those are super entertaining and I like them and the jokes are funny and all that stuff. But like, in terms of movies that I really appreciate as like great film, or ones that I really admire, it's usually some manner of extensive character work that is really kind of outside the box. And maybe it's because I'm kind of fascinated by people, which is weird because I don't really see people because I work at home in my little office here and I don't like go outside ever. But people fascinate me, and I like digging into the deeper psyche of people, and especially in movies when you can kind of do whatever you want with a character because it's not a real person. It's not a character study of an actual human being. You can kind of get out there with these characters that are things you've never seen before, and that kind of stuff intrigues me. Okay, but you see, the thing I like when you talk about movies, well, you and Joe, because you guys sort of know more of how that stuff is made. You've seen the sausage being made, right? And you still have this glee about certain films, where I imagine if I knew like as much about making movies as you two do, like I just wouldn't be able to just like let it go and just watch the damn thing, when you guys told me about the matte paintings in
Ghostbusters.
Oh God, please don't tell me we ruined it for you.
Yeah, that's all I see now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Every time I see that damn gargoyle. No, that's fine, because I actually found it fascinating, because I actually watched it because I listened to you guys talk about it. And then I watched it with my girlfriend. And I was like, that's a matte painting. And she was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I was just basically proud that I saw it. I don't know how you watch anything anymore when you notice stuff like that.
Yeah, well,
like that seems like magic to me.
It is. Yeah, there is something to be said about once you've seen how it's made that you kind of can't help see some of those parts. But there are still a great many things that I watch, even after seeing them dozens of times, and I just get lost in them. Like when we talked about Die Hard not too long ago, that's one that I try to study, and I know it's a great movie on a technical level for a number of reasons, but there are parts where I just get lost in it because I don't know if it's like being overwhelmed by all of the pieces working together in harmony to make, something that's bigger than the sum of their parts or whatever. But like if I can start studying the cinematography of something, but then, I'll end up on one shot where there's like a line that I love that makes me laugh or smile or something. And then all of a sudden I'm just watching that scene again. It's like, oh crap, 20 minutes later, I totally forgot to be paying attention to the cinematography now. But since movies are a collaboration with hundreds of people, there are times when just even I, knowing how they do these things, I watch it and I go, I could never do any of that. Like all of these things, there's some little piece of what I'm watching that is just so mind-blowingly overwhelming that it just knocks me back into my seat as a viewer, and I go, okay, I'm just going to watch this now because this is too much fun to watch. And having the critical eye is it's an exercise. And the thing about criticism gets weird when you try and break stuff down. Like, there's a film school thing where you can like, all right, let's look at a scene, let's draw a diagram of where everyone is and where the camera starts and where it goes and where the lights are, and try and figure out what kind of lights they had in the scene, where you can reverse engineer stuff and what kind of equipment. And, I love looking at behind the scenes photos and try and use that in conjunction with the movie to try and figure out what gear they had to pull something off if it was like a particularly difficult or clever shot. And that stuff's interesting, but the stuff that actually interests me is trying to like reverse engineer the mindset of the people who were in charge that day. I don't really care like what camera was used or what kind of stuff they used. I really care about trying to figure out what the director was thinking in order to create this thing, trying to figure out what message they had in mind and whether or not that was successful. And that kind of stuff is a sort of second level of analysis, I guess, that's kind of entertaining to me. So it's like, I look at some of Fincher's movies and I go, I know he has this like running joke about like people are perverts, and that's kind of like this weird stuff that he thinks is intriguing. But like, what does this stuff say about him? And it doesn't have to say anything about him because it's just his work. It doesn't have to be a complete reflection of the man who created it. But I always find it intriguing to see like what is it about this story scene combination of dialogue and action that like that got this filmmaker to really want to like push. Like in some of his films, there's some like some stuff that really makes you uncomfortable, and he's pushing the bruise to like make sure that moment lands. And it's like, what is it about this scene that made him want to go this way and that kind of stuff? And I love trying to interpret that stuff for myself, just to try and figure out what a filmmaker's all about. That's the kind of stuff that interests me. But again, that's like me discovering I have odd tastes in movies about weird people. That was a weird tangent where I probably revealed way too much about myself.
No, I just love the way you ended it. Like, just like we're weird people. That's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, because I look at these movies that I love, and I'm like, if I were to just write down the list of movies that I really like, people would think I was psychotic.
Yeah, don't do that.
Well, this last year, I saw Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know if you saw that or it came around yet.
Yeah, I think it's out. I don't know. I think it was already in the cinema, I think, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I know what the creepy Jake Gyllenhaal movie, right?
Yeah, it was nuts, and it's just like reprehensible on like 10 different levels, but I found it utterly fascinating, and I loved the way it was put together. And I don't know what that says about me, but I loved that movie, and just other movies in that same vein, which is it's kind of a more like indie style film, but just there's something about the character work in that and the way it was assembled that I love that movie.
You see, you do sort of point that out on multiple occasions, at least on the show, and you just did it there. But like, the whole collaboration process that the movie actually is, right? All of those moving parts.
Yeah.
Like even with the smaller, like I'm gonna say like smaller projects, like the Intel stuff, and how challenging is that actually? Because I always come to this distinction between, because I do a little bit of audio editing with the shows that I do, right? But like audio is pretty basic when you start to like factor in like multiple shots and stuff with the video, right? Like how easy it is to actually all of that to fall apart. Like just
well,
no, but
yeah.
You see, I don't know how else to ask that. I don't want to be flippant about it, but like it's because I had a guy here that directs movies. I had him on a couple of times. He's like a panelist on a incomparable style show we do, and I've talked to him about it a couple of times. But I find that fascinating because to me it just seems like there's too many balls in the air, basically. Like all the time. I don't know how that, like, is it easier for the smaller projects, or is it just, it's a shorter like time span and it's the same amount of just hectic stuff that can just fall apart basically?
My instinct is that it's potentially easier on some of the larger projects, but obviously there's more pressure when there's more money. But the thing about it is, and I can probably really only speak to my own experience, so that's kind of how I'll try and frame it, I guess. But when I write something, whether it was the Intel stuff or the 1Password video or whatever it was, I see every frame of it in my head as I'm writing it. And that's kind of the only way I work. Like I need to be able to see every cut, every angle to know if it's going to work together. And most of the time, I'm doing a little bit of fuzzy math in my head because I think we can get from here to there, and that'll work. Watching an edit in my head is different than watching an edit, on my computer screen. But once you show up to a location, chances are the actor you envisioned or the location you envisioned or the light you envisioned is going to be different. It's almost 100% guarantee basically that, okay, we found a bunch of great locations. This is not what I had in my head because my head is unconstricted in terms of what I can imagine. And you just kind of have to throw it out and go with the intention of what you had to do and say, okay, how can I adapt this idea to these new constraints? And obviously working under a constraint is often a good thing because here's the resources I have and here's how we got to make it work. And, you exercise that muscle of saying, all right, I need to get from point A to point B to point C, and I need to make sure we get these pieces along the way. And then, after that, you got to make sure you have your basic film principles of having enough footage and angles and different cuts to put it together and make sure it actually works technically. But the collaboration process is the same way, where you have to rely on these other people and you have to work with people that you can put trust in. One thing that it probably speaks to my working situation at the moment. I always liked to do all of it myself. In film school, there were a couple instances where I was writing, directing, shooting, lighting, literally doing every job myself except maybe being like the one guy who's on camera. And there was even an instance where I tried to do a shot where I was shooting myself because I didn't have any actors. But that even
sounded weird.
Yeah, I know. It was. I basically did shoot myself with that one. It was a disaster of a project. But putting your faith and trust in other people is essential for the process, but that's where it can either enhance the project or fall down if you have a misunderstanding. And the whole point of the director's job is to make sure everyone understands what they're doing and what your intention is, and let them sort of work within their job. As you learn to trust people more, you say, okay, I've seen your work, I know you're good. Here's kind of what I want to do. And then let them bring their own thing to it. And what they do usually is better than what you would have imagined doing by yourself. But the whole thing is malleable right up until the moment that you ship the video. Like the editing process is, there's the old thing they say, the movie's written 3 times. It's when you write it, when you shoot it, and then when you edit it. It's the whole thing changes, and it has the potential to be completely upended and changed in many, many ways. But the ever-evolving process of things being thrown out and redone, it's just the way the whole process goes, and you got to kind of anticipate it and roll with it, because if you freak out that you went over on time and you missed a scene or something, that's just the way things go, and you got to roll with it. You can't fall down on your knees crying because you missed your shot list for the day or something. Like, you just got to roll with it, and you got to be good at making sure you get enough to make a video in spite of all of these things that are constraints. So the collaboration process is just kind of everyone doing everything they can all the time, right up until the last minutes, and saying, does this work? No. Can we change it? No. Can we throw it out? Sure. Whatever you got to do to make sure the product is the best thing it can be. And the product is never, ever, ever going to be that thing that I imagined when I started writing. But
that was my next question.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be as good as it can possibly be, and we've got everyone doing their best on the project. But it's almost never the thing that I had in my mind. I should say the 1Password video is actually pretty close to what I envisioned in my head, except for there's one shot where the camera's moving a different direction than what I had anticipated, but it ended up working.
Oh yeah, I totally noticed that. By the way,
no, you have no idea, because there was a.
Of course, I don't.
I had envisioned this particular animated this graphic there towards the end. I guess it's one of the shots where the door is filling up with all of the different categories of stuff that the 1Password supports, the passwords and credit cards and logins, or all that stuff. I had sort of envisioned this different way of representing that, and the camera moved accordingly. And when you're just dealing with white walls and my imagination, everyone on set's got to trust that I know what I'm going to do, because I'm the one editing and making the graphics anyway, so I know what I'm going to do there. But I got into post, and it's like, well, this is really complicated and isn't really adding much, so let me see if there's a better way to do it. And that's what you see in the video is what I came up with. But it's like, well, it's technically the camera should be moving a little bit differently for that, but it worked. It's fine. We can salvage this. But other than that, pretty much every one of the shots in that I had more or less envisioned from the beginning. But again, it all on the day. There were so many things that changed the morning of that shoot, as with all shoots, that are just
like what?
Things that you would never expect.
Yeah, but like what? Just give me an example. Like what? Like on the morning of, what's changed? Like one.
Well, one of the things that was an interesting challenge, which it's not really something anyone could anticipate. The assistant director, who's the guy who sort of keeps us on schedule and makes sure everyone is doing their job, his apartment caught on fire at like 3 a.m. the night before. He was okay. It was just one of those things where it was just like, well, he got replaced, and it's like, oh, hello, nice to meet you. We're going to be working together in 2 hours, so let's get to this. And then, if I recall correctly, Adam, like in the middle of the night, like his dog was barking or something, or he didn't want it to wake up the baby or whatever, because he just had his son, and he slipped and like whacked his face on the edge of his bed, and he was actually bleeding out of his lip for a portion of the day. So he was kind of sleep deprived and a little bloody, and we doctored that up in post a little bit. But
wait, what? Adam has like a bloody lip in that movie, basically.
Well, I'm not really gonna point it out too much because I don't want people looking for it. But yeah, there is a bit of a cut in his lip.
I was not expecting that.
And moreover than that, it's just like, I mean, it's not even necessarily that it was like oh God, we have like a facial scar or something that we have to cover up with makeup or whatever. It's just one of those things that's like, no matter how many things we had on our mind that day, it's just like, oh, cool, we've got these other things that we're going to have to throw into the mix to make sure, we're all on our toes. So yeah, it's just one of those things that you show up and, what are we dealing with today? And it's like, oh, okay, cool. These are our new constraints. And luckily, the reason I go through that whole process of envisioning everything before we even get there is so I know what we absolutely positively need to get for this thing to work. And as long as I keep that in my head, and I usually keep a piece of paper with like a shot list or a script or something in my pocket, so I can look at that and make sure, okay, we got this, and that, and it reminds me of the images that I had in my head. And I go, all right, sure, we're still on track, and we're going to get everything we need. But there's always stories like that.
Okay, yeah, I was not expecting that. I was expecting, some piece of equipment breaking or something, not fires and like bloody lips.
Yeah, there's always something like that. Like I did one of the larger projects I did for Intel. It involved like a week of shooting and all these different locations. And it was shot in the Bay Area, sort of all around the San Francisco area, and I was still living in Phoenix. But, I showed up the weekend before we started shooting, and we go and tour this. It was in downtown San Jose. It was the art museum or something. And they said they would give us this this one wing of the art gallery that was empty at the time that had this cool layout because we had like an art setup or something. And it was going to be ridiculous. It was like $5,000 a day just to rent this like empty room that had these it was kind of nicely laid out with like walls and stuff that looked cool. But we showed up, I think Sunday to check it out before shooting there. I think that one was supposed to be Tuesday. And they were in the middle of renovation, so like all of the walls were torn out. So it was just one big empty room. And it's like, well, what the hell? And they're like, oh, by the way, the power in this side of the building, like anytime anyone goes up and down in the elevator, the lights like pulse because it's a really old building. It's like, okay. And they're like, oh yeah, and you can't use power here. You got to bring your own generator and run cables out the window down the building. It's like, why didn't you tell us any of this? And they're like, oh, by the way, it's also going to be $12,000 a day. And it's like, anyway, so we're going to look for a new location in the next 3 hours to shoot on Tuesday. And it's like, luckily we had an amazing location manager who found us something. But it's like, okay, so we're going to shoot here in 2 days. And we have all these actors and this giant crew and all this stuff. And it's just gone now. So like, sure, let's find somewhere else to shoot now.
Yeah, so rolling with the punches is like the motto basically every time.
Basically, yeah. I mean, you should anticipate that the best laid plans are going to get thrown out the window and you're going to start over. And that's just kind of the name of the game sometimes. And you got to keep that original vision in mind enough to the point that, you're fighting the constraints, trying to pull it back towards your ideal state. And you're going to hopefully land somewhere closer to that than the chaos. But, at the end of the day, you're going to cover up most of those sorts of things in post-production. So hopefully nobody ever notices that, this was your secondary choice for a location, or somebody was injured that day, or whatever whatever you got to do to make sure that at the end of the day you come out with the right product. That's what you got to do. So it's that's the editing process. We throw out all the takes where somebody forgot their lines, and it's the same sort of thing. We throw out all of the footage that makes it look like somebody was bleeding or something. Whatever you got to do. It's like, and I shouldn't harp on that example so much because it wasn't really as big a thing as we thought it was. It was just like,
oh, I have this vision in my mind now, which is just I'm going to, as soon as we stop, I'm going to go watch that video again. You do know that, right?
No, don't do that. Don't do that. But it's just one of those things, you don't expect your lead actor / co-writer to show up to set and be like, hey, so let's not get super close because I'm like bleeding out of my face right now. And I need like a napkin in my back pocket to sort of dab, in between takes and that kind of stuff. So it's like, all right, we'll deal with it.
Awesome. Okay, so there's, what can I say to that? Well, okay, the last thing I want to talk to you about before we get there, Hunter and Sauter, is Defocused, which, I just, when I have podcasters on, I just say pitch that show. I don't know how you're going to do that, but try.
Defocused is a podcast I do with former guest on your show, Joe Steele, where we ramble about the movie business, and then we usually kind of walk through a movie that we had selected and review it. Review is kind of a weird word. We talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, what we thought worked, that kind of stuff. But, it's just sort of a casual conversation about movies that we either like or dislike. Well, sometimes people accuse us of hating everything, but we don't hate everything. We like movies.
Oh, no. I just accused Joe of that.
Right.
You're in the clear. You've liked enough stuff to be able to say that Dan actually likes stuff. Joe just hates everything, basically. But, yeah.
See, it always happens, though, when we try to step outside the box with something like we heard was good. We just did Snowpiercer, which turned into probably the most negative episode we've ever had in terms of just really disliking a movie. But, we try and make sure our arguments are well-founded, or at least we discuss them long enough to where we feel like they are.
I know, but like Joe doesn't like Serenity, which is just like, okay. Anyway, but I actually mentioned Snowpiercer on another show I do here, and I don't know, I sort of almost liked it. Like that was my take.
No, this is the thing. You're totally allowed to like it if that's your thing. It's just
I know. I haven't listened to you guys talk
Okay,
about it. That's
all right.
still queued up. So yeah, just don't. Okay, I'm guessing Joe hates it, and you're just meh, basically. But okay, I'll see. I'm definitely gonna listen to it, and I do implore anybody that listens to this to just check out Defocused, because it's one of those shows that, you're gonna love Dan and hate Joe.
Well, I like that review. Can we quote you on that?
Anytime, man. Just, that can be a blurb in the sidebar.
Nice.
Yes, you can have that. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to further defend my position that, we hopefully try and dive into movies with a little more detail. And, like you said, we kind of are in the industry of making videos and movies that hopefully we have a little bit of insight that's maybe interesting to some people. But if not, we're just hopefully some weirdos on the internet that you don't mind listening to talk about movies.
No, that's the thing. You guys definitely bring something else to the table, because I learned a bunch of stuff listening to you guys, which, like, I'm surprised at myself that I'm saying that, but I actually did learn some stuff listening to guys. So
you learned that Ghostbusters had some shaky matte paintings, and now everyone's sad.
That just kills me now every time, man. Like, I've seen it, yeah. Because I actually went, like, I paused it, rewind it, and said, there's the matte paint. Okay, anyway. Sorry, it blew my mind that I actually noticed it, but okay. So we're going to talk about your hardware and your software now.
Sure.
So, your hardware.
I am speaking to you now from my, what is it? It was like a mid-cycle refresh. It was like 2013, 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro. It was like the first one, but they did like a chip bump or something and a RAM bump like halfway through the cycle. And this is where I do all of my work as well, on my laptop that has two other terrible Dell 19-inch monitors plugged into it.
19-inch monitors. That's
no, wait, sorry, 22. I don't know. They're terrible. I bought them years ago. I have the two external monitors plus the laptop monitor. So I've got like 3 monitors up, and that's enough space for me to do my work. And I got one of these loud clicky DOS keyboards.
you have the DOS. Okay. Which switches? The blue ones, the brown ones.
This was the first keyboard they made for a Mac, so I don't really remember. I think it was the Cherry MX. Is that what they're called?
Yeah. But then you have, like, the blue variant is the loud one, and then there's a brown variant, which is sort of silent-er.
Oh no, it's totally like really, really loud.
Okay, so those blue MX switches,
yeah. I got this keyboard when I was still working at Intel, and in that sort of open air cubicle environment. It took maybe like 4 minutes before like 8 people were at my desk going, "What are you doing over here?" It's like, "Hi, I got a new keyboard." I like it though. I like the feedback feeling.
Yeah, I have I have a SteelSeries G6 version 2. It's like a gaming keyboard, but it looks normal. It doesn't look like a gaming keyboard, and it has the blue switches. But my editor for the tech magazine I write for actually has the IBM Model M.
Oh yeah, that's the old beige one.
That is a loud keyboard. He has his own office, so it's not really a problem. But yeah, you can still hear it through the door. So yeah.
Yeah, I do forget about that sometimes. I worked in the sandwich office for a little while, and I felt super bad about it because I would start typing something, and all these other people who were being very nice and polite and quiet, and they're just like having to suffer through my insanely loud keyboard. But anyway, in addition to the keyboard, I have a little Wacom tablet that I use. The pen interface. That's pretty much how most people do post production, the kind of like I do. I also have a Magic Mouse and a Magic Trackpad connected because I like having all of the pointing devices I could possibly have. And I have a bunch of hard drives over here. I got a big old Drobo and a G-RAID and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, well you're supposed to. You do video, so I think that's a given. I think
I have like 30 terabytes of hard drive space over here.
Yeah, okay. I just love the fact that I do audio and that's not an issue. Every podcast I've ever done is in my Dropbox folder. I do have a big Dropbox folder, but still.
Yeah, as do I. Yeah, and I try and I keep like one project at a time, like on my internal SSD on this laptop, which is the best way to work because it's super fast and it's all in one place. But it fills up that 768 or whatever it is gigabyte SSD pretty quick.
Yeah, that's nothing basically. Yeah, to you guys, that's nothing, right?
Yeah, I think the last project I archived, single project, was like a 300 gig video or something. I can't remember what it was.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah. Those numbers still blow my mind. Yeah, honestly, because it's a ton of data. But yeah, it makes sense. It's a lot. Because you talked about FedExing, hard drives in one of your episodes. And I'm like, yeah, well, it sounds weird, but it makes sense, actually.
Yeah, and it's probably, other people have slightly more efficient workflows. I don't really work in QuickTimes. I kind of do the same sort of film pipeline that Joe does on all of the things he works on, because image sequences, where it's basically each video is like just a still image, that like a PNG or something. We use specific file formats for video, but one video frame can be 30 megabytes per frame, and you got 24 a second, so that stuff fills up pretty quickly.
Yeah, adds up.
Yeah.
So your phone?
Oh, I have an iPhone 6, the regular one, because I am not a large human being. As I've learned from your shows, 5'11" is not a tall person, so I have a regular iPhone 6.
Well, it's not. Like, it's not.
I know, right? I know. I have an iPad 1, which
okay, yeah.
It basically has been completely unused for a very long time. I actually just wiped it and reinstalled everything like 2 days ago, because I figured it might just be fine for surfing the internet. It's still super slow. It's only on iOS 5.1.1. Like that, apparently that's where it maxed out. But I don't really use the tablet. I am just on my iPhone 6 all day long. Well, not all day, because the battery dies at like 4 p.m. But yeah, like all day. This is my phone and my laptop.
Yeah, you should have gotten the Plus, but the battery lasts longer.
Dude, I can't. It does not fit in my hand. I don't know how people, because I do a lot of stuff one-handed, or at least I try. And even the 6, I'm starting to like adjust to it. But I played with the 6 Plus in the store, and holy crap, that thing is gigantic. Yeah,
I played with one in the store as well, and a bunch of people here also have it. It's awesome. It's awesome. But I am a giant, so that does not count.
Yes.
I'm not the yardstick for that.
What are you using these days for a phone?
Oh, I have the Nexus 5 still.
How big is that one?
That's a 5-inch screen. Yeah, and then the 6, which is out now, has a 6-inch screen, but it's made by Motorola, which does not have a presence here, really. So I can't even get it subsidized. Like, I'd get it in a heartbeat, but it's just not available. And if I buy it unlocked, it's so expensive. It's ridiculous. So, yeah. Because it's the first Nexus phone that it's not a cheap Nexus phone, right? Because the 5, when it came out, it was like $350. So if you, mine was actually bought here, but the 4 I bought in America, like a friend bought it in America and brought it over. And when there's no customs and the dollar is tanking, it's pretty cheap.
And I was trying to remember. I thought it was something about the import cost or whatever. That is the reason you didn't have an iPhone, or you're just actually really super into Android? I can't remember.
Oh, no. Well, I'm not so, I always just use the Android because I'm a Gmail guy.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I live in Gmail and Google Calendar.
Me too, but
I can't get used to it. I have an iPad mini now. With the Retina screen, and it's fine, but I don't know. There's something like Google with Android 4.0 did something right, and I sometimes know what that is, but it fits me somehow. Because I review phones all the time, and I get iOS iPhones all the time, and it's I don't know. I'm still not convinced. I still prefer Android, stock Android. I should qualify that. Yeah.
Okay, but are you using the native Gmail app?
I just moved, the last couple of months, I moved to the Inbox app.
Oh, right. That's their new one thing.
Which is like Mailbox, but it's awesome. The whole email as a to-do list is just the greatest thing ever. For the way I handle email, I actually clean out my inbox every Friday now.
Right. I don't get that much email, so I do it every day. I use Mailbox on my phone, and I was using it on the Mac for a while, but the beta is pretty buggy, so I kind of dropped it and went back to Mailplane, but for the traditional Gmail interface. But that Inbox one looked awful complicated. I like the Mailbox where I can delete archive or just tell it to show up tomorrow because I'm too busy right now.
Yeah, well, that's what the Gmail inbox thing does. That's it.
Yeah, but doesn't it have all that weird sort of like sorting or where like sticks like emails together or something?
Yeah, but you can like leave that alone basically. You can, or just not have that. But the thing is, I have a bunch of work email accounts, so I have all of those piped into my Gmail. So that grouping thing is awesome. Like from one job, I have all of my emails in one place, and then there's the podcast stuff. They're all in one place, so I can selectively choose what I'm going to look at now. And that's just, it's the best thing ever, honestly. It was kind of hard at first because I was so used to the Gmail interface, but now it's awesome. It's honestly awesome, and it works like a charm on an Android phone. So. Because Apple Mail on the iPhone is the worst app I've ever used.
I don't think I've opened regular mail in a couple of years. Or since whenever Mailbox came out, I haven't gone back since then. But
yeah, but honestly, like if you use Gmail, and the first Android phone I got was the Galaxy Nexus, which had ice cream sandwich. Like that's Android 4.0. Mm-hmm. Like the Gmail experience on that phone was awesome, and that's like 4 years ago now? 4 years?
Well, I asked about the Gmail app itself because I really don't like the actual Gmail app on iOS. It's just like slow and weird, and I'm not sure what its deal is, but I find it very odd to use. And I used it a little while when Mailbox didn't have mark as spam, but now, I don't open that app unless I really, really have to for some reason.
No, yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, I'm the exact opposite. I love that thing. Honestly, it's like one of the like Google kind of had some missteps with the apps it was putting out, but this one is awesome. Honestly.
Well, you have different opinions, so we should totally fight about it.
Oh yeah, we should because this is the internet. Yeah. Yes, the techie side of the internet, which is even worse, I think. Mm-hmm. So any other apps you actually use, like stuff you actually use?
Oh dear.
On your phone. I'm just going to say on your phone, because if you go into the desktop stuff, we're going to be here for 2 hours. But
yeah, you don't want to talk about, I mean, I use like one app on the desktop, but it's like expensive and people shouldn't look at it or buy it. I use Tweetbot, of course, all the time. Yeah. We run our podcast stuff through Slack, so that's where we chat most of the time. Editorial, of course, drafts, of course, Tumblr, Nuzzle, all that fun stuff that all of the nerds are into. I just recently downloaded this app called Plot, which is sort of like a journaling thing for movies that you've watched. It's like a Foursquare style thing where you like check in and you search for the movie and you say yes or no if you like it, and you add like a really short like Twitter length blurb about what you thought about it. But I like it because it's got like a follow your friends sort of thing where you can see what other people are watching and you can comment on their stuff and sort of discuss it. I mean, I just started using it, so there's only like 6 people I talk to on the thing, but since I have a terrible memory for things, I like to keep it on my main screen there, and every time I watch a movie, which is I'm coming to realize I watch more movies than I thought I did, at least partial movies that are on TV. I just fire it up and, check into it or whatever and keep a list there. So I'm kind of liking that one these days.
Okay, my last question. If you had to choose one thing, one physical thing, and it can be your grandmother, so it's a thing, not a person. I don't know why I say that every time, but it makes me feel better. Anyway, if you had to choose one thing, what would that be? Like something that made an impact on your life. You might still have it, you might not, but like it has to be one thing.
Yeah, I actually did put some thought into this based on previous episodes, and I really didn't come up with much of an answer for you, so I apologize. I feel like I should say something like the first video camera I had that sort of like I ended up playing around with and led to my ability to make a living these days, which for the record was a Sony TRV-8 mini DV camera, which was a terrible, terrible little camera that we bought at a Best Buy. But I am accused regularly of being utterly attached to my iPhone, whatever iPhone I have at the time, iPhone 6 at the moment. And, things like the iPhone and Twitter in particular, I guess Tweetbot in particular, are kind of the reason I know the people I know and the reason I have the job that I have. And I really wouldn't be anywhere near where I am in terms of career and friends if it wasn't for Twitter, which is a really weird thing to say. But yeah, am I allowed to pick a software app or a service? I don't know if that qualifies.
Well, yeah. Well, if it's hand in hand with the iPhone, I'll allow it.
Okay. So sure, I will pick the iPhone because it's the way that I keep in touch with literally everyone in my life, and it's led to all of the good things I have. All of the people that I've learned from, all of the friends that I have on the internet, and some that I've met in real life. It has changed my life for the better in many ways, and probably changed my life for the worse in the fact that I stare at it all day long. But still, I enjoy my iPhone.
Actually, that's a good answer. Then. If you just had said the iPhone, that would be douchey. But that speech at the end that saved you.
Well, I still feel like it's a cop out because we all have smartphones and we're all super connected to all of these fun people, but.
Well, yeah, but you live in the middle of the desert, so I imagine it helps. Yeah.
I do. I live in the middle of frickin' nowhere, and if it wasn't for the internet and social networking, I would never talk to a human being other than my girlfriend who I live with, or my dog, which he doesn't really talk back to me.
Yet. Dan, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
This was fun. So we can stop recording now and just talk about Joe and how he's a terrible person for not liking stuff.
Yeah, he's just the worst.
He is the worst. Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tole je bila 94. epizoda Aparatusa. Dena najdete na Twitterju pod @Sturm. Jaz sem na Twitterju @ZT, tako da mi lahko tam težite. Svet pa, tako kot vedno, res ful hvala vsem, ki podpirate to, kar jaz delam, ker pač res vsak evro prav pride, pa pol dobim še malo več zagona, da to počnem. Tako da ful hvala. Unika pa to hočete narediti, spete pa na aparatus.si/podpri. Hvala, ki ste poslušali. To je naslednjič to. Adijo.